Good afternoon. Welcome to the U.S. Coast Guard Academy's webcast of College Week Live. Thank you for joining us. Over the next few hours, you'll be meeting with admissions officers, faculty, coaching staff, and cadets currently enrolled at the Coast Guard Academy to answer any questions you might have about what life here is like. I'm Lieutenant JG Chris Lopez. I'm one of the admissions officers for the Academy, covering the West Coast, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, Hawaii, Alaska, the U.S. territories, and any citizens living overseas. I'm from Miami, Florida originally, graduated high school at the Mast Academy, a public school in Virginia Key, in 2005. Immediately after graduation, I was enrolled in what is now known as the CGA Scholars Program, a prep school program for cadets not immediately chosen to enter into the Academy, but offered a one-year opportunity to boost their academic standing and professional and leadership development to earn a spot and be qualified and competitive at the Coast Guard Academy. I spent 1 year in the New Mexico Military Institute in Roswell, New Mexico, and then entered the class of 2010 at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy. I was a government major while I was here, specializing in international affairs, and immediately after graduation from the Coast Guard Academy, I reported to the Coast Guard Cutter Hamilton in San Diego, California as an engineer officer in training. While underway, the majority of our patrols we went off the coast of Central and South America did a lot of counter-narcotics operations, stopping cocaine and pot smugglers from getting their drugs up into Mexico and eventually up through the U.S. that way. We also had some migrant interdictions on rescuing people who were stranded at sea, either with broken down vessels or being in distress. Spent one patrol up in the Bering Sea of Alaska in the middle of winter and really got to see what the deadliest catch life is like. After 1 year in the Coast Guard Cutter Hamilton, we decommissioned it and took over the Coast Guard Cutter Boutwell out of Alameda, California, and brought it down to San Diego. My time on the ships I did engineering administration, damage control. After that, I reported here to the Coast Guard Academy and took over the role of the admissions officer. The Coast Guard Academy is a unique institution in that we are one of the 5 federal service academies. What that means is that students don't pay tuition, room and board, and actually receive a small stipend of about $800 a month to pay for any additional costs that they might have on their own. Cadets are active duty military members and will be expected to serve 5 years in the chosen branch, in our case, the U.S. Coast Guard, as an officer to pay back for their undergraduate education. Being a Coast Guard officer means that while you have higher rank and higher pay, you also have a higher level of responsibility placed upon you. It's a 5-year commitment as a leader, not just as a service member. The Coast Guard's unique in the Academy is in that, first off, we come from a much smaller organization. The Coast Guard is about 40,000 active duty members, and the Coast Guard Academy has about 950 cadets enrolled at a time. Being the smallest school also means we have a very different attitude as a cadet corps. Cadets at the Coast Guard Academy are very teamwork oriented and learn from the first day to put each other over themselves. What that means is cadets here are extremely successful, not just in getting through the program, but in getting through their time in the Coast Guard. Not because they're focused on improving themselves, but because they're always focused on improving each other and helping each other out. The Coast Guard Academy is one of the most selective schools in the country. We're taking students who are the top in the class in academics, athletics, extracurricular activities, and are focused on helping others in community service. Our application process is 100% online, and we're the only academy that doesn't require congressional nomination. This is a benefit for us and for you. We take the best of the national applicant pool, not having to deal with any caps or quotas amongst regional, gender, or racial divides. It's also a benefit for you because you don't have to compete with other students just for the opportunity to apply. Your application is directly reviewed by a Coast Guard Academy admissions officer and not by a local politician. What we look for is quality students. Students will ask about letters of recommendation, whether they should get them from politicians, local business leaders, but the correct answer is we want letters from people who know you the best. We want an opportunity in your letters of recommendation and your personal statements to get to know who you are as an individual. Tell us about that. We value content over the position of the person writing it. For those of you that are seniors, our application is already open at uscga.edu/apply and is due in its entirety in February 1st. That means SAT scores, transcripts, personal statements, and letters of recommendation must be in by then. For those of you that aren't seniors, I recommend that you look into our AIM program. AIM is the Academy Introduction Mission, and that application will be open for high school juniors in February. It will be due in its entirety in April 1st. AIM is a 1-week opportunity to come visit the Academy and be placed in the boot camp environment. The program is run by current cadets. So you'll get to see not just what they're like on a day-to-day basis, but the kind of training that they put themselves through and put their peers through. You also have a chance to meet with staff, faculty, have a robotics competition, learn some basic military indoctrination like drill, rates and ranks, and get a chance to meet with coaches and go to a couple of sports practices and get to see what athletics like at your academy. We are a D3 school, have about 23 varsity sports and 10 different club sports, so there's plenty of opportunities for athletes to play here. The AIM program, however, is a one-week program in the middle of summer. It gives you a full exposure to what life at the academy is like. Like I said, that's available to students between their junior and senior year, and the application will be available on our website in February. If you have any questions, please let me know.
If you have questions, write them in.
Oh, if you have any questions, please type them in. Students at the Coast Guard Academy will complete 4 years at the Academy regardless of their previous educational or occupational experiences. All fourth class cadets, freshmen, will take the exact same courses regardless of major, and they'll get a broad general education in mathematics and calculus and sciences with chemistry and physics, English literature, government, economics, and introductory courses to civil, electrical engineering, and naval architecture and marine engineering. Starting your third class year or your sophomore year, students will start getting into their majors and must declare their majors by the end of the year. This is when students start breaking away from taking the same courses and will start specializing in courses like fluid dynamics, thermodynamics, international relations, and management courses.
Majors.
We offer 8 majors here at the Academy. Civil, electrical, mechanical engineering, naval architecture and marine engineering, government, which is equitable to a political science major, management, which is a business major, operations research and computer analysis, which is an applied mathematics major, and marine environmental sciences. Even though we only offer 8 majors, these 8 majors can be split into 15 different fields of study. The electrical engineering major, for example, has a circuits track and a programming track. The government major splits into domestic policy and international affairs. MES, Marine Environmental Sciences, has 3 concentrations, and students pick 2 of those 3 to form their major: marine chemistry, marine biology, and physical oceanography. Students have the opportunity, their first class year, of completing an internship. This internship will be something focusing on their major. Students in good academic standing have the chance to petition their academic advisor and basically have an internship separate from the Coast Guard if they so desire. Previously, students have worked at the NSA, have worked in SeaWorld, have worked with the Navy, teaching sea lions how to rescue unconscious underwater divers, have worked in nuclear weapons facilities, nuclear physics labs, biological weapons facilities. Students in the past have gone over to Africa and worked with the U.S. military forces there and local governments at fostering better relations with each other. The opportunities at the Academy are really only limited to the creativity of our own cadets. The school is so small and the staff and faculty so large and supportive, the cadets will often get whatever it is that they're looking for, as long as they can find other cadets to support them in the program and they can actually justify their interests.
Okay. The application, the parts of the application, how to review in your Bears Den, talk to your admissions officer, stuff like that. The kid wants to know if we have his SAT file question, or his SAT scores on file.
Parts of the application, when you're filling it out, include your personal section. The personal section will include personal statements, and you must enter the contact information for everyone providing you a letter of recommendation. The required letters of recommendation come from a guidance counselor, an English teacher, and a math teacher, as well as a PFE administrator. The PFE, or physical fitness exam, is a 3-part battery required for all applicants to complete with a minimum score of 130. Your PFE administrator will also be listed as a recommender. Once you have submitted your application, you can check your status on things that have been submitted with you through the Bears Den page. The Bears Den page you can find when you come to the U.S. Coast Guard Academy's website, uscga.edu, and up in the top banner, you'll find a link that says log in. Once you log in, this will take you to your Bears Den page, and an applicant checklist is available there. If for some reason you're finding the materials are not appearing in the applicant checklist, which you think you have previously turned in, this may be dependent on what kind of materials they are. Transcripts, your PFE, and SAT or ACT scores must be manually verified by admission staff to have been entered correctly. If items that you have turned in are not appearing on the checklist and you're concerned that they may have not been received, you can contact your admissions officer and they can help track those down. More than likely, the items have been received and are still being manually verified. For those who are applying early action round 2, some items are still being verified at this time. For those applying regular action, those items are currently not being verified because early action round 2 is being taken care of. If you applied early action round 1 and anything is missing, please contact your admissions officers immediately so we can get on top of that.
Reapplies.
For students who are interested in reapplying to the Academy, you may have noticed that when you try and log back in, it tells you that you've already submitted an application and you're not able to submit another one. What you'll need to do is go to a personalize at the home page. Go to the home page, and at the top banner you'll see a link that says personalize. You will need to create a new account in order to create a new application to the Coast Guard Academy. If this doesn't work and you have an alternate email address from the one you used previously, use your alternate email address. If this still doesn't work, please contact your admissions officer and we'll go through the back door of the website and edit your account so you're able to create a new account and access a new application. Please note that if you are reapplying to the Academy, you will have to complete the application in full. While you can use previous personal statements and previous letters of recommendation, you've progressed a lot in the past year. You've grown in your experiences, graduated from high school, taken some college courses, taken on a job. You want to update us with the experiences and how you've grown in the last year to give us an idea of who you are now and how much of a stronger applicant you've become.
What % of students who graduate SWAB summer actually graduate the Academy?
Follow-up question is, what percentage of students who make it through SWAB summer will actually graduate from the Academy? About 80% of students who start from day 1 of SWAB summer will make it all the way to graduation day of the Coast Guard Academy 4 years later. SWAB summer isn't a time where we're trying to see who's got the stuff to make it through and kick the rest out. Once you're here on day 1 of SWAB summer, we will keep you here. That doesn't mean it's not going to be a hard time. It is extremely stressful, and some students simply won't be able to make it through. Students that leave from SWAB summer are more often than not leaving voluntarily because they don't want to make it through the program. Approximately 10% of students that we will lose throughout the 4 years will leave during SWAB summer. The rest of those students, again, another 10% of the incoming class from day 1 of SWAB summer will leave throughout the rest of the 4 years, some voluntarily, some for disciplinary issues. Very few will leave for academic issues because of the academic support systems that we have in play here at the Academy. There are peer tutors, all professors hold office hours and are required to come in after hours as well, a couple of times a month to help out students. And not just all the students, but the staff and faculty are really devoted to a cadet success. Cadets that are not being successful academically will be put on extra academic probation programs to make sure that they are successful academically.
What percentage of the monthly stipend do students actually receive?
Question is, what percentage of the monthly stipend will students actually receive? All cadets receive a monthly stipend of about $850 a month. This stipend goes into a cadet debit account. What that means is costs of books, uniforms, any supplies you might need at the Academy for your academic studies or military performance can be paid for with this debit account. That debit account is in your name though, so it's not money being held by the Academy, not permanently at least. While the Academy is holding it, cadets have the option, if their account is outside of the red, they actually have money in the account to withdraw money at any time if they need it. Cadets will receive a portion of that stipend directly into their bank accounts. Fourth class cadets will receive about $150 to $200 a month. Third class cadets will receive about $250 a month. Third class, a little over $300. Sorry. Second class cadets, third year cadets, juniors will receive about $300, and first class cadets, or the seniors will receive about $450 a month. Like I said, it's an $850 stipend, and that money is coming to your name. Those numbers I gave before are going directly into your bank account. The rest goes into a debit account being held in your name. And if you need to access the money at any time, all you have to do is go down to the finance center and tell them, hey, I would like my money, and the Coast Guard Academy will write you a check for the money that is in your name.
If I am a recruited athlete and a coach wants me to play for them, and my academics meet the requirements, am I automatically accepted into the Coast Guard Academy?
The question is, if you are a recruited athlete because one of our coaches wants you to play for them, and your academics meet the minimum requirements, are you automatically accepted into the Coast Guard Academy? The answer to that simply is no. The Coast Guard Academy is a D3 school, and while we certainly look favorably on athletes, especially the recruited athletes, everyone still has to go through the same process of admissions, being reviewed electronically by 3 to 5 different reviewers, and then reviewed at a committee, including the Director of Admissions and several senior admissions members, senior faculty members, senior athletics members, and other staff and faculty members from around the Coast Guard Academy community. Being a recruited athlete certainly looks very positive on your application, and it definitely helps out, but it's not an academic in to the Coast Guard Academy. You will know you received an appointment when you get notification from your admissions officer or from the admissions office directly that you have received an appointment.
Can you talk about the payback after going to the Federal Service Academy to active duty?
Right. There is a 5-year obligation, a payback for your undergraduate education to attending a service academy. For the Coast Guard, that's a 5-year commitment. This 5-year commitment is as an officer, so you're coming into the Coast Guard at a higher rank, higher pay, but also higher level of responsibility and higher expectations on your behavior. Your first assignment is going to be an operational assignment. The majority of our cadets, approximately 80 to 85%, will go to a Coast Guard cutter, a ship. These Coast Guard cutter assignments, there's 2 possible. One is as a deck watch officer, and the other one is as an engineer officer in training. Deck watch officer's primary responsibilities will be the safe navigation of the ship and the safety of her crew. They're going to be ship drivers. They'll have collateral duties in communications, intelligence, law enforcement, and weapons handling. Engineer officers in training will stand in the engine room and be responsible for the safety of the ship and its crew from a different regard, and will specialize in damage control engineering administration. About 5 to 20 spots every year will be reserved for cadets to attend flight training in Pensacola, Florida at the Naval Flight Training Center, and they will go on to be Coast Guard aviators. Once you attend flight school and graduate from flight school, this does add an 8-year commitment onto your obligation. The reason is, for the next 8 years, you will do nothing but fly. Your primary job will be fly, 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 and you'll transfer from one job to another, and it's going to be flying and flying and flying. After that 8 years is up, you'll have your 5-year commitment left over, at which time you will take another assignment, not aviation related, but still have the opportunity to go back into aviation immediately after that assignment. Last 2 possible options for cadets are going to be at sectors. There's the response side, and there's the prevention side. A sector is a land-based billet, which includes small boat stations. And at these land-based billets, on the response side, you'll be responding as a junior officer to any incidents that may occur. Natural disasters, terrorist incidents, law enforcement, overdue fishing vessels, persons in distress. Normally, you'll be standing watch in the response center, the command center, and you'll be taking charge of all Coast Guard assets in the area to respond to any sort of disaster or incident. Prevention side is the exact opposite. You're making sure these things don't happen. You're inspecting vessels coming into port from foreign ports, making sure they're carrying what they say they're carrying. You're inspecting vessels before they leave port or come into port, making sure that they comply with all safety and environmental regulations of the U.S. and trying to prevent any kind of disasters or incidents from happening. That 5-year commitment, after your first assignment, you're eligible for grad school. The Coast Guard will pay for graduate degrees for its members in all fields with the exception of med school. Going to grad school does incur an extra commitment of about 3 years.
Can you talk about the DODMERB process? What is DODMERB?
The question is, what is DODMERB and what is the DODMERB process? DODMERB stands for the Department of Defense Medical Examination Review Board. The DODMERB evaluation process is taking place simultaneously with your application, but there are no proactive steps required on the part of an applicant. What happens is every person who is going into the military must be found medically fit for military service. The academies and ROTC programs use DODMERB for this. When you apply to an academy, specifically to the Coast Guard Academy, we will receive your application, we will review it, and if you are deemed a competitive applicant, we will contact DODMERB directly and provide them with your contact information. DODMERB will then reach out to you and let you know what doctors and health service providers in your immediate area are qualified by DODMERB to conduct a physical exam and an eye exam to make sure that you're fit for military duty. All you have to do is once you get that notification from DODMERB, you schedule your appointment, go in, take your physical, take your eye exam, and you walk out of the office that day, you're good to go. That doctor will send the results to DODMERB. Once DODMERB has evaluated it, they will send it to Coast Guard headquarters. If you're found medically qualified, then you're good to go. And once you're offered an appointment, it'll be a full appointment and you'll be into the class of 2018. If you're found medically disqualified for any reason, the Coast Guard Academy will automatically put in a request for a waiver on your behalf. You'll be notified the request for a waiver has been submitted for you, and if you need to do anything else, like submitting extra paperwork from your doctor, we will let you know exactly what it is you need. If you're not medically qualified, your application will still go through the review process. We will not take that into consideration, and we will evaluate you as if you are a medically qualified applicant. If you're given an appointment but you're not medically qualified at that time, your appointment will be conditional, and the condition being that you are found medically qualified or receive a waiver for your disqualifying situation in the future.
The Coast Guard Academy seems to have a high percentage of its graduates attend grad school. Why is this, and what areas do they enter? Law, etc.
Question is, the Coast Guard Academy seems to have a high percentage of graduates attending grad school. Why is this, and what kind of degrees do they go for? Over 80% of our graduates will go to graduate school. There's two reasons for this. One, it's free, so why not continue your education and continue your own professional development if the Coast Guard's going to be paying for it anyways. Another reason is that if you want to make a career out of the Coast Guard, you'll hit a certain level. The rank of lieutenant commanders and commanders is very difficult to attain without having your graduate degrees. Now, this doesn't have to happen anytime soon. You've got anywhere from 8 to 15 years of active duty Coast Guard experience before a graduate degree is required to continue to make a career out of the Coast Guard. But if you want to have a long-term career, you will need a graduate degree. The reason is because Coast Guard officers will have a specialty. Once you've been in the Coast Guard long enough, you're not just performing your specialty on a day-to-day operation, but you're going to be supervising people and checking the quality of their work. And that graduate degree is kind of required to make sure that you actually know and can verify what it is they're doing, and they're doing it correctly. Some of the more popular degrees are law, engineering, to include mechanical, civil, and electrical engineering, marine engineering, ocean engineering, chemical engineering, fire science, business, finance. With the exception of the medical profession, most careers that can be found in the private sector can be found in the Coast Guard as well. If you have any questions about the kind of specialties that officers will get into if they want to make a career out of the Coast Guard, or the kind of grad school programs that are available, you can find it at gocoastguard.com. This is not a website that the Coast Guard Academy is associated with, but if you click on officer and look for officer specialties and programs, you can find more information about the kind of programs that are available for a career officer.
Can you talk about what safeguards are in place to prevent or address hazing or on-campus violence?
The question is, what safeguards are in place to prevent hazing and on-campus violence? For on-campus violence happening away from non-cadet, on-cadet, Coast Guard Academy has a police department on campus. The Coast Guard police are official police officers, but instead of having being police officers for a city, they are federally recognized as law enforcement officers. They have a constant patrol on campus, as well as a private security contract company, which has a constant patrol on campus as well. The Coast Guard Academy is a gated campus, and all entrances to the campus are continuously monitored by Coast Guard police and by contracted security forces. In terms of hazing, hazing is absolutely not tolerated on the Coast Guard Academy. Cadets, in the training period and throughout the 4 years, are not allowed to make any sort of unauthorized or unsolicited physical contact with each other. Even during swab summer, which is a very high intensity, very physical period, cadre, the cadets who are training the new cadets, are not allowed to make physical contact with the trainees unless they request permission, for example, to fix a uniform item that's on their body. If a cadre is to make physical contact with a trainee, they may see themselves expelled. Hazing is not tolerated at all. I'm going to give you one specific instance that I was aware of while I was a cadet. My second class year, when I was a junior, there was a hazing incident between 3 fourth class cadets, freshmen. The hazing incident was this. 1 fourth class was asleep in his rack. 2 fourth class came into the room, threw water and flour all over him. That was deemed a hazing incident. Within less than 48 hours, the responsible cadets for the incident were brought up on masked, non-judicial punishment, very similar to a trial procedure. And the Commandant of Cadets, someone like the Dean of Student, had the entire 4th class, the entire freshman class there to witness the punishment of the cadets that were responsible for it. They were placed on suspended disenrollment, which meant that they were disenrolled, but they had a chance to appeal it. They had 6 months where they had to have pretty much perfect behavior, and at that time they could appeal their disenrollment. So hazing is absolutely not tolerated, and any instances of hazing are immediately dealt with. And if it's serious, an issue of violence of any kind, the cadet's going to be disenrolled within a week.
How does stationing work once you graduate? Does it rotate, and how long on average are you at one location?
Question is, how does being stationed at your first assignment work immediately after graduation? Around November of the student's first class or senior year, they'll receive what we call the shopping list. It's a list of all the assignments available to an ensign, first tour junior officers. This is going to be broken down by the kind of unit it is, where the unit is located geographically, and the specific job available at the unit. The cadets will then submit an e-resume, an electronic resume, with the jobs that they want. It usually goes by class rank. So number 1 in the class, for example, is going to get their first pick. Number 168, for example, is going to put a lot of things on that shopping list and hope for the best. Majority of the time, cadets are going to get something in their top 5 and top 10. I was number 168 out of 197, and I got the number 3 pick on my list. It's only because number 1 and number 2 are Hawaii, and everybody wants Hawaii. The way it works is your first assignment is going to be a 2 or 3 year billet. If you're on a ship, it will be two years. If you're at a sector, which is land-based billet, it'll be 3 years. If you're at flight school, it's about 1.5 to 2 years, depending on the scheduling of the program. After that first assignment, you'll transfer, and the same thing will happen. A shopping list will come out with the jobs that are available to you, and it's going to be broken down by unit, the job position, and geographic location. And you will submit, again, what jobs it is you would like in order, usually 8 to 10 jobs, and you will work directly with the assigning officers, who are the ones that pick what job you're going to. There's assignment officers for different specialties. If you want to go to a ship, there's one for that. If you're interested in engineering, there's one for that. If you're interested in special assignment, public affairs, C4IT, which is communications, and a lot of work with computers and networks. There's assignment officers for different specialties. So you would pick the kind of jobs you want, put it on your list, contact the assignment officer, and they'll work with you to get to the job you want. Now, a lot of people talk about needs of the service. It's true, sometimes you might not get your top pick for different reasons. One, there's a better candidate for that job than you based on their qualifications. Or 2, you might be the perfect candidate for a different job somewhere else based on your qualifications. The majority of the time, though, you're going to get something that you're asking for because the assignment officers are actually evaluated on how well they get people what it is they want.
Is graduate school part of your 5-year commitment?
Question is graduate school a part of your 5-year commitment? Graduate school is not required as part of your 5-year commitment. However, if you want to go to graduate school immediately after your first tour, you are eligible to attend graduate school during your 5-year commitment. But no, it's not required during those 5 years. For example, I'm completing my 5-year commitment prior to attending graduate school. My current career plan is that I'll take one more assignment after this one and apply for graduate school then. So I'll have anywhere from 8 to 10 years in the Coast Guard before going to graduate school.
When are cadets required to wear uniforms while attending the Coast Guard Academy?
Question is, when are cadets required to wear uniforms while attending the Coast Guard Academy? The official answer is always, because technically the gym gear and the clothing that you wear after hours is considered a uniform because they're all the same colors. Realistically, what is actually a uniform, the operational dress uniform like what I'm wearing, with a tropical blue uniform, the pants and short sleeve blue shirt, those are only going to be worn during working hours. Working hours is when the cadets get up in the morning until the end of the academic day at 4 o'clock. after 4 o'clock, cadets are out of uniform unless they're in some sort of disciplinary trouble. But sports period, study hall, dinner time, anytime that they're not actually at a military training or in class, cadets are not in uniform. They're wearing shorts and a t-shirt. They're all wearing the exact same shorts and a t-shirt, so it's considered a uniform, but they're wearing shorts and a t-shirt. Or if it's colder out, they might be wearing sweat gear, sweatshirt, running pants, running suit pants, things like that. So unofficially, cadets are really only in uniform from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on weekdays, Saturdays from 8 a.m. till noon, and Sundays cadets have liberty time but not required to be in uniform.
I play a few of the club sports that you offer, but I do not play any of your varsity sports. How much will it affect my chances of appointment since I will only participate in club sports?
The question is, the applicant plays a couple of the club sports that we offer, but not any of the varsity sports that we offer, and how will that affect their chances of appointment? It won't. That won't negatively affect your chances of appointment. We have 23 different varsity sports, about 10 different club sports, a full musical program and theatrical program to staff, and less than 1,000 cadets to do it all. What that means is, as long as you are participating in an activity that we offer on campus, you are going to be an extremely competitive applicant because we need someone to fill all of those roles. Traditionally, our club sports are actually some of the stronger sports on campus. Men's and women's rugby, for example, will regularly go undefeated and make it onto the national tournament, if not to the national championships. So in short, if you're playing a club sport, you're just as competitive as a varsity athlete. The only difference between a club sport and a varsity sport at the academy is where the funding is coming from. Club sports are being paid for by the Alumni Association. Varsity sports are being paid for by the school itself. The differences the cadets see are very little, and both kinds of sports are just as public. Club sports are just as public as varsity sports, and we need athletes who are going to be playing in our club sports just as much as varsity sports.
If I am accepted, I know that I can visit the academy during the Academy Experience Program or Cadet for a day, but is it possible to stay for longer and experience more of what it is like on a daily basis?
Question is, if accepted, if you are accepted, you will be invited to the Academy Experience Program. It's similar to the Cadet for a Day program we hosted in the fall, where cadets are able to come on campus. They'll have an admissions brief, they'll meet with admissions staff, but the majority of the time, for about 24 hours, they'll be paired up with a 4th class freshman or 3rd class sophomore cadet, and they'll be attending classes, sports practices, military training, and sleeping in the barracks. The question that we had was, am I able to stay on campus for longer and experience more of cadet life? The short answer to that is no. The cadet barracks is their private area. It's where the cadets sleep, hang out, do homework, eat. It's where they live their day-to-day lives. The time that we have visitors with them, while it is a valuable time for the visitors and it's a chance for the cadets to interact with these visitors and let them know what life is really like, it can be a little stressful on the cadets. So that's their private time. The campus is an open campus. During daylight hours, we always allow visitors on board. So if you want to stick around an extra day or two, get to see the New London area, get to explore the surrounding towns, and then come on campus that weekend, see a game, kind of see what the cadets are going through for the training, you're more than welcome. But you won't be allowed to stay on campus for extra time after that. Please be aware though that Cadet for a Day Academy Experience programs, while they are officially admissions programs, we don't really have any control about what the cadets are talking to you about the experience that you're going through with the classrooms, with trainings, anything like that. They're not filtered or censored in any way. It's an honest idea of what it is you're going to be, of what campus life is like on a day-to-day basis. And you'll see that when you're with the cadets. You're not going to be hanging out with admission staff. You're not going to have people really shadowing you the entire time. It's just going to be you and the cadets in a pretty candid, uncensored environment.
On average, what percentage of early action applicants receive appointments versus applicants who submit by the February 1st regular action deadline?
The question is, on average, what percentage of early action applicants will receive appointments versus applicants who are applying regular action, applying for the February 1st deadline? The answer to that is about 50%. About 50% of applicants will come from early action. There's two reasons for that. Well, there's one big reason for that. We're not going to fill up the class just based on early action. while we definitely could fill up the class based on early action with the amazing number of applicants that we get, we know that we've got plenty of more amazing applicants coming down the pipeline for regular action. So we will not fill up the class until every single application has been reviewed by at least 2 different people. What we'll do is we'll find plenty of applicants during early action that we really like, but we don't want to fill up the class yet. We will offer them a place on the wait list. When they have a place on the wait list, we're basically telling you is we really like you. We want to consider you further for application, but we want a chance to review all of their applicants first. Once all of the applicants have been reviewed, then we'll revisit the wait list, and we will appoint students off the wait list that were not appointed previously.
If I were to pursue physical therapy, how will I do that while in the Coast Guard?
The question is, if you're interested in pursuing physical therapy, how can you do that within the Coast Guard? The short answer to that is you will be pursuing it on your own time. While the majority of jobs available in the private sector can be found in the Coast Guard, one big one that cannot is anything within the medical profession. For that, we use doctors through the Public Health Service. Now, you do have the option, though, as a Coast Guard member, of using the Tuition Assistance Program. Tuition assistance currently allows active duty military members to pursue further education using federal funding, but not dedicating their entire time to that. So while you're at your job, whether it's a station, whether it's a boat, whether it's an office, you would be attending night classes or online classes, and you can pursue your degree that way. You also have the option, once you've completed your 5-year commitment, if you want to be a physical therapist full-time and don't want to be a part of the Coast Guard, you can get out, and you have the GI Bill. The GI Bill will pay for 4 years of education, so you can use that bill to pay for an advanced degree in your chosen field or a bachelor's degree in your chosen field, a second bachelor's, for free, so it's already covered that way.
I currently attend a state maritime academy. Does the regimented lifestyle I live right now better my opportunity for appointment?
The question is, the applicant currently attends a state maritime academy and wants to know if their regimented lifestyle would better their chances for appointment. It's yes and no. We're still going to want to see the same things that we want to see from every applicant. Strong grades, leadership potential, athletics, all those things. A commitment to service, a commitment to their community. The things, what it's really going to let us know, though, is that you are used to a regimented lifestyle and can handle it. But you're still going to have to meet all the qualifications of every other and expectations of every other applicant that we see. If you don't attend a school like this, be aware that we're still looking at other things. Students who are participating in sports or extracurricular activities, doing community service, holding part-time jobs, really doing anything outside the classroom while still maintaining good grades. They're living a self-imposed, disciplined or regimented lifestyle. So it gives us an idea that you can handle the rigors of an academy experience.
If accepted to the academy, who pays for transportation there?
Question is, if accepted to the academy, who pays for transportation there? It's you and it's us. You will pay for your initial flight and all your travel to the academy. However, once you are here, because you are being sworn in as an active duty military member on orders, you will fill out a travel claim and you will be reimbursed for the cost for travel. If you are unable to pay for the travel to the academy, once you receive an appointment, please let us know about it and we will work with you. And what you will have is a travel advance to get you to the academy. You simply won't fill out a travel claim while you're here. Please be aware that while you're at the academy, though, the only travel that will be paid for by the Coast Guard and the academy is official travel. Meaning if you're being sent to a summer assignment or to an assignment with the Coast Guard Academy, the Coast Guard Academy will pay for that. However, flying home or getting home or going on vacation on your own time outside of official government travel is going to be on your own dime. But you will have that stipend, so you're going to have the money saved up to be able to pay for your own airfare. That's how I paid for everything. Mom and Dad didn't pay for anything for me. I wanted to go on vacation. I was going home for Christmas break, Thanksgiving break, going down to the Virgin Islands for spring break, something like that. I used the cadet stipend that we were receiving to pay for all of that.
Can you talk a little bit about the Coast Guard Academy Scholars Program and how many spots available there are for it?
The question is about the Coast Guard Academy Scholars Program and how many spots are available for it. Every year we'll have applicants that we really, really like. We think that they deserve a spot at the Coast Guard Academy, but we just feel that they aren't ready for the academy lifestyle in some way or another. It could be academics, it could be the physical rigors, it could be leadership and professional development, but something isn't quite there. We will offer those cadets a spot in the Coast Guard Academy Scholars Program. This coming year, there will be about 40 spots available. The Coast Guard Academy Scholars Program is 1 year spent at a junior college of the Coast Guard Academy selection. The two colleges we currently use are Georgia Military College and Marion Military Institute. They are military junior colleges, and the enrolled students will take courses in calculus, English, literature and composition, history, physics, and chemistry. The cadets will complete a year there. Well, the prospective cadets will complete a year there, and as long as they maintain above a 2.5 GPA and don't get a D or an F in a final grade in any of their courses and pass the physical fitness exam, they will have a guaranteed spot into the next year's class. If the cadets are having some sort of academic trouble, there are faculty and staff members at the two colleges that work directly with the Coast Guard Academy that are there to support them. Admissions staff will travel to the school at least once a month as well to check up on the cadets and on the prospective cadets and make sure that they're doing well while there. Tuition is paid for, and the cadets are enlisted into the Coast Guard and will receive their full enlisted salary to help them offset the cost of room and board and food while they're there. I went through what was known at the time as SEGRET, now the Coast Guard Academy Scholars Program, and the money that I made more than offset the cost of room and board at the school. I actually had about 13 grand saved up by the time that I was done with the program. So while not everything is paid for by the Coast Guard, you are being paid by the Coast Guard to attend school, and the money you make is more than enough to offset the cost and have a little spending cash as well.
What are some things you look for in an application that shows signs of leadership?
The question is, what are some things we look for in an application that show signs of leadership? This is not going to be an all-inclusive list, but any kind of a leadership position, team captain, club president, vice president, class president, those are the obvious ones. Scouts, for example, is a big one though. Boy Scouts, achieving Eagle Scout shows leadership. For the Girl Scouts, achieving the Gold Award. JROTC programs help, but then there's some unconventional things. The kind of community service that you do. Some students, for example, will be at smaller towns and they'll coordinate, plan, organize, and execute community service events all on their own, bringing in volunteers from around the town to do it. While it's not an official leadership position, the fact that you coordinated an event and got people to sign up for it really shows a lot of leadership because you're getting people to rally behind you at an event like that. A lot of students are youth coaches and will work with children. Working with children is like herding cats. That's an amazing level of leadership if you can get kids to do anything, much less an organized sport. So youth leadership shows, coaching shows a lot of leadership as well. It might be working in a tutor group, creating a club at your school. Really anything that you're working on outside of the classroom is something you should let us know about because these are all things that show leadership. You know, if it's whether it's just being a team captain all the way down to running a study group for your peers.
Can you talk about flight school and aviation in the Coast Guard?
The question is, can I talk about flight school and aviation in the Coast Guard? Realistically, no. But I'll tell you what I am aware of. Flight school directly out of the academy is extremely selective. Usually it's going to be anywhere from 5 to 20 spots reserved for graduating students to go directly into flight training. My graduating class, there were 5 spots open, and there were over 30 students who were interested in flight training. So that was a pretty hefty chop right there. However, I graduated class of 2010, a little over 3.5 years ago. All of my classmates that were interested in aviation are either at flight school now or have already gone through flight training and are pilots in the Coast Guard. So while it's extremely selective coming directly out of the academy, it is something that is very attainable in the Coast Guard if you are medically qualified for it. All you have to do is, whatever unit you're assigned to, do a good job there. But when you show up, let your command know that you are interested in going into aviation. And your command, more likely than not, is going to work with you to get you to flight school in a reasonable time, whether during that assignment or immediately after your first assignment. As long as you do your job well there, it lets them know that you're definitely going to be an asset to the Coast Guard and one they want to keep around. And the easiest way to keep people around in the Coast Guard is to give them the jobs that they're looking for. The aviation community is pretty close-knit, besides just being selected, directly at the academy because of your class rank, or your command endorsing you saying, yeah, this person will be a good pilot. You will have to sit on the board, and you'll have a couple of aviators, basically interview you 3 to 6 on 1 to make sure that you are a good fit for the aviation community. It's a lot of responsibility that we put on junior officers very quickly. You're going to be in charge of, $1 million aircraft and the entire crew and their safety on board, as well as the safety of anybody that you might be, looking for rescuing at that time. The people that you're going to be working with are experts in their field, aviation maintenance technicians, rescue swimmers. If you've ever seen The Guardian, guys jumping out of the helicopter, you're going to be responsible for them and their safety while you're flying the aircraft. Immediately after flight school, you're going to be a pilot for 8 years. That is going to be your only assignment for the next 8 years of your life is flying. So if you really like flying, that's the kind of thing that you're into, flight school is the way to go. If you're not too sure about it, there's an advantage that while you're at the Coast Guard Academy as a cadet in your second class summer, you'll participate in the Coast Guard Academy Coast Guard Aviation Training Program. It's 1 week that you'll spend at an air station shadowing pilots, attending some of the courses that they go through, and going up in different Coast Guard aircraft, and more likely than not getting some stick time and actually getting to fly. I got to fly one of the jets and I got everybody in the back air sick, so I quickly found out that flying wasn't for me. But you have the option of exploring it. If you're really interested too, at the Coast Guard Academy there's an aviation club. The club members get to, whenever they like, go to a local Coast Guard air station, shadow pilots on their day-to-day operations, kind of see what typical life is like for a pilot, and go up in aircraft to get an idea of what flying in a Coast Guard aircraft is like as well.
How many cadets are you going to be appointed to the class of 2018?
Question is, how many cadets are going to be appointed to the class of 2018? The goal is to fill up 235 spots this year. There's a chance that might increase. It definitely will not decrease. Does that mean we're only going to hand out 235 appointments? No. Just because we know some students are going to turn us down, we will hand out more than those 235 appointments. If, for some odd reason, every single student we hand out an appointment to decides to accept, we're not going to say, hey, sorry, we changed our mind. We only got spots for 235. We're not a hotel. If we overbook, we're going to overbook, and we're going to bring everybody in that we said yes to.
Is the PFE a large part of your application being competitive?
The question is the PFE a large part of the application being competitive? I'll start off with the minimum score for an applicant is 130. If you have less than 130, you will not be considered a qualified applicant. Is it a large part of the application? No part of the application is weighted more than any other part. It is a part of the application that is considered, though. A student with an extremely strong PFE score is going to be slightly more attractive because we're going to see this person is extremely physically fit, will likely be an asset to whatever sport that they're looking into, and is not going to be at risk of having problems with physical fitness. A student with a poor physical fitness score will not an automatic disqualifier is going to give some pause in the consideration process because that person might be a risk for physical fitness purposes. However, it's not going to be a make or break part of the application. One question comes up a lot though, what score should I aim for on the PFE? The answer is 300, a perfect score. It's really what you should be aiming for in everything. SAT scores, GPAs, you should be aiming for just the best that you can do. So people like to know for statistical purposes, the average PFE score for an applicant is a 215.
How many applications do you anticipate receiving for the class of 2018?
Question is, how many applications do we anticipate receiving for the class of 2018? Just an estimate, there's no way to know for sure, but we're anticipating getting about 2,100 applications in total.
Can you describe what a cadet does during their summer experiences?
Question is, what does a cadet do during their summer experiences? Your first summer, swab summer, the summer before you even start your academic career at the academy, is 7 weeks of training. 6 weeks are going to be here on campus doing basic military indoctrination, learning marching, how to wear the uniform properly, proper military etiquette, rates and ranks, social etiquette, things of that nature. Pretty much everything you need, a crash course to military lifestyle and some introduction to the officer lifestyle. 1 week will be spent on board the Coast Guard Cutter Eagle, basically getting your first exposure to being on a Coast Guard ship. Your next summer is going to be 6 weeks at an operational Coast Guard unit. more than likely a Coast Guard cutter, but it may be a sector. The units are all over the country, and you're going to get basically your exposure to Coast Guard operations for the first time. Not learning about them, but doing them. Going out and doing search and rescue. Being on a cutter that's doing a drug bust and helping out with that experience. My third class summer, I was on a cutter. At the time that I was on board, we had 6 cocaine busts, and we rescued 80 people at sea who were stranded in a fishing vessel that didn't work anymore, 4 days from shore with only a day's worth of water left. So I got to do that as a cadet, help out with lives being saved, drugs being intercepted. The other half of your summer you're going to spend on Coast Guard Cutter Eagle. It's a good opportunity to get to know all of your classmates because you'll be on board half the class at a time. It's a big teamwork environment, really, because Coast Guard Cutter Eagle, it takes 120 people working in perfect unison just to make the ship turn correctly. So it gives you that real exposure on working together with your classmates in that team environment for the first time. Your next summer, your second class summer, is your leadership summer. You're going to be doing a lot of things here on campus. You'll be going through rules of the road training, driver's ed for ship drivers. You'll be getting your pistol and aviation, your pistol and rifle qualifications. You'll be doing that aviation training program that I mentioned, 1 week at an air station, shadowing pilots. You'll do what is called the Coastal Sail Training Program. Basically, it's your midterm exam for nautical science. For the past few years, you've been learning how to plot voyages, some basics about ship handling. You're going to have 1 week with your classmates where you're going to be on a sailing vessel with a safety officer on board doing pretty much nothing. You're not going to have any GPS, radar, navigational equipment. You're going to have your charts. You're going to have the knowledge that you've learned over the past 2 years, and you're going to sail around New England, basically proving to yourself and to the staff and faculty on campus that you actually have been learning something over the past 2 years in nautical science. That summer, you'll also be cadre for the first time. That's your time where you're going to be training the incoming swabs, training students in the AIM program. It's going to be your first real exposure as a leader, and you're going to be leading people and training people in a very stressful environment. So it's going to give you an idea of what being a Coast Guard leader is really like. It's not just getting people to do what you want, but it's recognizing that people are in high stress situations and how to manage them in those stressful situations and keep them safe in that kind of environment. Your last summer is going to be an entirely operational summer. That first class year, you're going to be at an operational Coast Guard unit for 12 weeks, and you're going to be performing some of the jobs of a junior officer. So you're taking on those collateral assignments and getting to know really what that kind of a world is like. Some students will have an opportunity to compete and participate in an internship. And as I mentioned before, those internships are going to be a pretty wide variety of things. It's whatever you can convince your academic advisor to go let you do. Well, that's working for the NSA for 6 weeks, working in a biological weapons research facility, in a nuclear physics department at another college, or as one of my cadre did, going to work with the Navy to train sea lions and how to find people underwater. So pretty wide variety of things available that summer.
What rank and pay is an Academy graduate normally at the 5-year commitment to active duty service?
The question is, what rank and pay level is an Academy graduate at the 5-year commitment for active duty service? Once you hit your 5 years, if everything went according to plan, you didn't break anything, you're going to be a lieutenant. A lieutenant is an 03. Pay in the Coast Guard, it's kind of dependent on where you're stationed. But I haven't reached the 03 level yet over my 5 years, so I can't tell you off the top of my head what their base pay is. Base pay for an ensign, 1 year out of the academy, sitting at a little over $40,000. That doesn't include, though, all your benefits that you get from where you're stationed. For example, while I was in San Diego, you make an allowance for housing depending on where you're stationed. That allowance for housing for me was an extra $2,300 a month. So 1 year out of the academy, I was making over 60 grand a year. But it's really dependent on where it is that you're living. If you're on a ship, you get an extra kicker for that for sea pay. If you're taking on a hazardous assignment, you make hazard pay. If you happen to know another language, good for you. Take the interpreter's exam, and you get an extra $100 a month just for being fluent in another language at your unit. So it's really going to depend. But everything goes according to plan. 5 years, you'll be a lieutenant.
What percent of cadets are transfers from other colleges?
The question is, what percent of cadets are transfers from other colleges? I don't have that number right off the top of my head, but approximately 10% of our applicants coming in every year are post-high school. The majority of those post-high school, meaning they've already graduated from high school, are not transfers, but coming from another college. A very small number will be active duty Coast Guard who are not currently enrolled in college. So I guess you can say probably 8% of cadets are coming from another college. They're not transfer students. Just know that regardless of where you are already in your college experience, you will complete 4 years at the academy and your credits will not transfer. However, you don't want to repeat some of your classes. If you think you have the skills already to pass those classes, you'll have the option of validating the course while you're at the academy.
How does the optional interview affect my chances of admittance?
The question is, how does the optional interview affect your chances of admittance? The interview is optional for one reason. It's absolutely not required. The reason we offer it is because students want an interview, so we offer it that way. If you're an extremely strong applicant as it is, chances are the interview is not going to do anything to boost your application because you're strong already. If you happen to have a bad day, you don't interview too well, you have a personality clash with the person doing the interview for you, it's going to hurt you. If you don't feel like you have a strong application, but you think you're the person who's got the kind of character and attitude that is really going to help, then it might be worth looking into. Please be aware that if you are requesting an interview, you must submit your application before requesting that interview. An interview requests usually take 2 to 3 weeks to fill. So, if you're early action round 1, you're looking for an interview, you're not allowed to ask for an interview anymore. If you're early action round 2 looking for an interview, you're going to want to get that request into your admissions officer pretty soon. I would recommend by the end of the week. If you're interested, if you're applying regular action and you're looking for an interview, you should submit your application by mid-January at the latest, and as soon as you've submitted, notify your admissions officer that you want an interview so we can get that in your file before it's reviewed. If you have any further questions about academy admissions, please contact your admissions officer. You can find your admissions officer's contact information at the website, uscga.edu/admissions. At this time, I'm going to be turning it over to another staff member that will be able to talk to you about what it is they do here at the academy.
Okay, so we're off right now. Great job.
Thanks for the water. Fantastic.
So we only have one wireless mic, so it's in the middle. We can hear from both chairs. How we're going to do it is you can go in, introduce yourself, kind of give your background, what you do here, and we can do kind of 2 up there at a time and then rotate a third in or whatever you guys think works best.
It's fine.
Okay.
Do you want to take off? I have my woolly pulley on.
Okay. That's fine. Whatever.
Is that okay? I can do yours.
Okay. That's fine. You look good. You look good too, sir. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I spent an hour on my makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Craig, can I dump this in your office?
I didn't know what to do with